we get into our heavyweights of our straight bred steers, and quite the foursome here. There's a little bit of give and take on each one of them, but I think we're going to start off with the one with I think just the most muscle volume, and then I think he's also the soundest one in the class. You certainly have to appreciate just the way he puts himself together, just how much meat and muscle this one's got. For me, I'd like to, pretty him up in his front 1/3. I'd like get that neck coming out of that shoulder just at least a little bit higher to make him more attractive through that front 1/3. But again, you want to hawk one with some power to him and some soundness to him. That's going to be your class one. A young man's Hereford steer. Talk about a stout one. This one's got a lot of muscle shape to him throughout. Big bone, big bodied one. Again, here's one that's a little more attractive in comparison to our class winner. But the longer this one stands out there, he gets a little bit buck-kneed for me. The longer he stands out here, you'd like to push that knee back underneath him, give him a little more angle to his shoulder to relax that through his front 1/3. That's just a pretty good steer right there. I switched 3 and 4 here. Here again, the young lady with the short horn steer. He's the sounder of the two. For me, at first I thought, well, maybe he doesn't have enough to him, but the longer you look at him, and he's got plenty of muscle volume to him, but as far as muscle expression goes in that rear 1/3, he gets a little disappointing in him, but at the end of the day, he is the sounder steer versus the two. The young lady's got a big, powerful steer here coming next, but for me, he's a little uncoordinated off his front. Again, here's another one. You'd like to push his knee back underneath him. You'd like to, change the angle of his rump, push that tailhead back down underneath him, but another powerful, good and feed and kind of steer that rounded out this class. Congratulations to these young people.
Congratulations to Colin Wolf. Next up, we will be going into crossbred. We are going to start with our lightweight crossbred steers. Oh, I lied. I keep doing this. It is the champion in reserve for single breed steers.
As we pick our champion straight bred steer, let's give these exhibitors a nice hand for an outstanding set of, I guess they'd be purebred steers. In order to, the next class then will be the crossbred steers, and, in order to get those F1 crosses, you're going to need some purebred steers. So congratulations to these young people for bringing out some purebred steers and having those. We've seen a lot of these exhibitors earlier today in the heifer show, and that's how the beef industry works. Is you have to have some purebreds along with your crossbreds and get that hybrid vigor going that way. But for me, we can sit and talk about these steers all day, but the one that really hits me the hardest, the one that looks the best to me, is the young lady up front with this gray steer. That's going to be your champion purebred steer. And then I'm going to go ahead and follow them with the black steer for reserve. Congratulations, these young people.
Congratulations to our grand champion, Kendall Rudiger, and our reserve, Colin Wolf. Now we're going to go to crossbred animals. We're going to start with our lightweight crossbred steers.
There's problem number one right there. That's when I let go and run away. I'm done. I would do, you know, like, pigs are funny. They bring pigs out. Can I bring a rabbit? Can I just bring a rabbit? I don't either. No, even a sheep is hard, man. It's like there's no way to follow sheep out, man. Then they get stepped on and they help them across the house. If he was deaf and kids that still carry the wind, he would help them. And so he would follow it on. He's cool and they go in the stall. He called him in the ring and then he just stepped on it. Oh, it's just cool. She did everything she could not doing it. When we got back to the stall, it was like we went back to the interior. He tastes the good though.
As we start our crossbred division, a real nice class of steers here. You know, there's some different types and kinds, and of course you're going to have that when you start randomly selecting breeds and tossing them together. You're going to have some variation, but for me, I think the stoutest and most powerful steer here is going to win the class. And I think when you get him out on the move, he's probably the soundest one as we get him out and see him go for, you know, I'll admit, he is not the freshest one up front. He's, you know, he'd certainly like to give him a little more extension, clean him up in that jowl and that chest and just in that brisket area in comparison to our second steer. That's where the second steer has the advantage, but he just gives up too much muscle. He's isn't quite a square through that hip, and you like to power him up down low in comparison to the class winner. And then again, as we go into the third steer, a steer that's just super wide, super big, and you know, big top kind of a calf. But there again, when we see him from the side, you know, he gets really short in that hip, and he slopes off in that hip, and we certainly would like to change that about him. But a steer that's quite massive as we look at him throughout. You know, the steer coming next, you know, he's just a little flatter and plainer steer throughout. There's nothing actually really wrong with him at all, other than we just need to see a lot more shape out of him and throughout. I mean, he's sound and he's good looking from the side, and we certainly appreciate that about him. And he's a very, from what I can see, he was a good feeding kind of a steer. The young lady coming out with the black steer next. Here's a steer that, you know, he's just a little bit too piecey. He's a steer that, you know, again, from your transitions from your front third to your middle to your rear, he just them parts and pieces don't mash up together, and it throws off his balance. And we'd like to lengthen him out in that hip as well. The lady that rounds out the young lady that rounds out the class, a steer that just gets outpowered throughout. A steer you want to give him more shape, more hip, more lower quarter, just more muscle mass and muscle volume to go any higher in this class.
Congratulations to Margot Moses. Next up, we have the heavyweight crossbred steers.
Hello, how are you? Oh, you know, that's okay. Well, we will do this here real quick. Hopefully it doesn't crash my YouTube stream or streams, if they're still going. So we'll just record this, and you can be on your way, and I can go back to watching Spears here. Take me out. So there you go. Welcome to another edition of Off the Cuff by our broadcaster Brian Winnikins from WRG on the radio, and joining us Sabrina Halverson with Ag Net West. Susan Littlefield will be in our second segment. We have a pretty special segment coming up in segment number 2. I am at the Dunn County Fair in Menominee, Wisconsin when we recorded this, and you will hear the Dunn County Fair's beef show going on in the background as that continues. But it's fair season, Sabrina, and I know for you in California, did you have a lot of county fairs in California, or was it just the big state? Now, did you exhibit any not, I didn't exhibit actually anything. I loved going to the fair. I loved seeing all the animals as a kid growing up. That was always a big part of it, but I really didn't have the ability to do that. My great uncle's farm was on the east side of Green Bay. We lived on the west side of Green Bay, and there was just no way I could have ever done anything, to work with an animal project. But I've always loved the fairs. Now I have to ask, what's your favorite carnival ride? No filter for you? That's the whole, I'm the guy that's on the top of the Ferris wheel where it says do not rock the car. I'll rock the car just because. Oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, okay, I have to also ask, with it being fair season, this is a special time for a lot of folks on the farm, and it's important as well, I think, and that's one of the reasons I want to keep, kind of chatting about it, because this, 2020, all of these things were canceled, and yeah, they started to come back last year, but that face-to-face, meeting with neighbors and friends and all of that, I think for farmer mental health, I've talked to some folks, they say these are really important for farmer mental health, and that's why I'm glad to see a whole lot of people here in Dunn County. We have a full house here for the beach show, but that's what makes these special. Sure, go ahead. Let's see, I gotta ask, what's your favorite fair ride? Oh, that's such a, that's just wrong. That's just, oh.
As we look at him from every angle, and I think when you put him in motion, he's sound enough for me here today to go ahead and win this class. Young man steer in second. I think he gives up quite a bit of muscle and mass, but here's one that's just a little bit sounder, a little bit smoother made, a little bit more correct on his angles and his feet and his legs, and especially if you put him in motion. A steer that's super long-sided, but you just like to see a lot more of him in that internal dimension and more power to him as you go ahead and get behind them and you look at them at that three-quarter view. Just more shape to them would be a lot more and more of an advantage if that would happen. The young lady coming out next with her black and white steer, certainly an attractive steer from the side, but a steer as we watch him go in motion, we'd like to free him up on both ends. A steer that, as we look at the angle of his hock and the angle of his pastern, we'd like to soften him up. A steer that probably has enough muscle volume to him, but just not enough expression to him. He's fairly smooth in his appearance and then needs a little more shape throughout. Young man rounds out the class. A steer that's got enough, as he will view him from behind, enough power to him, but a steer that gets a little bit too chunky, too bold in his shoulder. I'd like to change right behind his shoulder, just strengthen him up in his top. A steer that gets outside of himself in his front as we put him in motion, but a nice class of crossbred steers.
Congratulations, Colin Wolf.
Well, I'm enjoying very nice fair.
Next, we will have our champion in reserve crossbred steers.
Go on each other, so go to the fairs. Dr. Baraka, he had to pack up for 5-year-olds and for, I think it's 9-year-old and 13-year-old children to escape a war. And we had a chance to talk with her, and we were going to do that. And Sabrina, that's, I think, the biggest thing I've been thinking about since this interview. We visited her earlier this week here at the fair, how lucky we really have it. So we're going to do that. We're coming up in part number 2 of Off the Cuff. That is coming up. We're on Off the Cuff. Perfect. There we go. That'll work for us. Yeah. So you know, I can't believe you guys don't have these cups. They have actually teacups here. They have the teacups here. Yeah, well, the thing is they also 5-degree angle and really crank it going. I got stuck on that last night with my grandson. You know, it's their... All right, well, I will let you guys go. Thank you again. Wow. Oh, that's a... There you go. All right, thanks, guys. Yeah, all right. Yep.
As we come to the conclusion of our Crossbred Steer Show, again, my hat's off to the exhibitors and the families and the breeders of these cattle to get them to where they are today. Certainly, some steers, I mean, a lot of times you go to these county fair deals and there's a handful of them that are underfed and not well taken care of, and you just kind of feel bad. But I think as a whole, there certainly wasn't any of those steers here today, and he certainly compliments you on getting these cattle fed right, getting them presented right, and giving the consumer exactly what they want and what they need, even whether they know it or not. As we look at our 2 class winners, I think from their shoulder back, I think 2 steers that are fairly similar, and just their boldness and their power and their correctness from behind. But then we get into that front 1/3, and I think there's one steer that's just a little bit more sound, a little bit more correct, a little more eye appealing in that department. Young man with your black steer, you're going to be your crossbred champion. Young lady with your blonde calf, you're going to be reserved. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Grand Champion Colin Wolf and Reserve Margot Moses. Time for the champion of each breed to come out for the top overall. We are doing this for the mature market beef champions.
Again, you're watching coverage of the 2020 Dunn County Beef Show on our YouTube channel at Duran Broadcasting WRDN and online at realcountry1430.com. Again, good afternoon. I'm Brian Winnikin. Says it's been a wonderful day today. We had the swine show earlier today, and now we have the beef show going on here. We're wrapping things up here. We're doing the overall market beef, and then we will do our final class, and that's the bred and owned market steer. But thank you to all of our sponsors. We've been talking about them throughout the day today. Please thank them. Please give them a phone call, drop them an email, visit their business, tell them thank you for supporting these video streams on our YouTube channel throughout the Dunn County Fair. Also, we'll be doing it at the Buffalo County Fair and Pierce County Fair as well. These are the folks that have made